up. One of your best attacks in the game is the counterforce. Even though it's a very short range, it deflects projectiles and deals a lot of damage against the bosses. Alien Soldier definitely the bosses have extremely long life bars that deplete very slowly. Even the more powerful weapons don't deal enough damage. You also have to worry about your weapon running out of ammo, which brings me to my next point. The controls are way too complicated. Every time you switch out your weapon, you have to pull out this menu during the gameplay, which is not efficient. I've gotten hit so many times just trying to use my weapon. To perform the wrong action, intending to do something else. I also don't like how you aim in this game. Your character will always face in the same direction you're moving unless you stop shooting, which is not how Gunstar Heroes work. I do have to give some credit though. The developers pulled off some cool effects just like their other games. The graphics are nice and colorful, with some stages looking very appealing. It's decent, but not as good as Gunstar Heroes. They overcomplicated the controls and added mechanics that had no business being in this game. In my opinion, they shouldn't give you unlimited ammo, and the controls should have been exactly the same as Gunstar Heroes. Money was one of the heavy hitters in the gaming industry, but they played it a little too safe. They had a tendency to publish local games and sequels to well-established games.
Espero ser English. English. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Hey, Ben. Oh, mm, yeah, mm, mhm, mhm, yeah, I like this song. Right. La fucking lição. Oh, banana. Banana. Nice. The characters.
Shall I take over?
This is very good. Well, that's the best thing I left. I was uh, script that. Oops. Banana.
I will voice that.
British?
I hope Boy Scout.
Okay, you guys. Please, don't do it again, Orange. You know. Don't do it.
Visit.
Boy.
Mortals live but a day, and still you dare to sin against the heavens?
Technology these days of online fighting has been your favorite. With your friends studying fighting.
Nine control.
Their writing to end so they can get good grades with confidence and integrity. For example, your friend who's stuck writing an essay can use brainstorm with AI chat to quickly jumpstart their writing. What's going on? games 10 years later. They had success with some of their earlier big titles like with success in the arcade, they decided to expand into the home console market. In this console, they designed games for high-speed card tracing. In 1983, with the release of the MSX, Konami would become a well-known on that home computer. With the release of the Famicom that same year, a few third-party companies signed on to Team Nintendo, like Hudson, Namco, Taito, and more. Konami would wait about a year and a half before publishing their first game for the Famicom, Antarctic Adventure. Surprisingly, this was one of their few early titles that was not based on an arcade game. You play as Pet the Penguin, and you must travel to the research station before time runs out. Welcome to Destiny City. You could not make a complete stop. There's no required to hit you only have one life, and playing with the regular players. There's no my house, my rules. They're nice, and I almost similar with only minor changes. It's not a game, but it feels unfinished. Why do mostly items do absolutely nothing? I had to check out the sequel, New Adventure on the MSX. Same game, but with some massive upgrades.
Oh,
Upgrades the enemies. You can also keep all the items you purchase for the entire game, too. They don't run out or anything. Unlike the previous game, you have lives, and certain enemies are not. Surprisingly, there's even bosses, unlike Antarctic Adventure. The graphics have a lot of variety. There's even an underwater stage which changes up the mechanics a little bit. Instead of flags, these heart icons move across the screen. Instead of doing nothing, there's actually more abilities that you can obtain using these hearts. This is a shockingly better game than the last one, and it actually feels like a finished product. Unfortunately, it was only released on the MSX. Here's Circus Charlie. You play as a clown who can fit between 6 different minigames. The stages are all platformers, but they each have different mechanics. In the lion stage, you must jump through the rings without touching the sides. In the tightrope level, you must jump over the monkeys. On paper, all these stages sound very easy, but Circus Charlie himself has a very limited jump. You have no control over your character when you're in the air, so you really have to time your jumps correctly. This is actually what makes the game fun though, because if you could steer your jumps like Mario, it would be too easy. The Famicom version is mostly the same. The minigames feel exactly the same as they do in the arcade version. You can tell it's an early Famicom game though just by looking at it. The graphics are very primitive with not a whole lot of color on the screen. But it's one of Konami's first games on the console and you have to start somewhere. Unfortunately, they did remove the trampoline event from the arcade version, but it's not a big loss. Here, you must jump to the next trampoline while avoiding the projectiles. You can only jump up to 3 times on the same trampoline before you lose. There's not much strategy, and it feels more like RNG whether you run into the next projectile or not. I don't mind that they removed this minigame from the Famicom version. The stage where you swing on the ropes doesn't play quite as well as in the arcade original. In that one, the ropes have very fluent movement, but in the Famicom version, they're very choppy. Other than that, I'm surprised at how well this turned out. Even though it only came out in Japan, there's a chance you might have played it anyway because it was released on many bootleg consoles. Let's take a look at Road Fighter. It's a basic racing game where you must reach the finish line before running out of gas. If you run into another car, you'll spin out of control. You want to avoid crashing as much as possible because not only do you lose time, but also fuel. It's better to let go of the gas if you hit another car so that you can recover without crashing. The yellow cars always stay in their lane, but the red cars will always try to ram into you. The rainbow cars will give you fuel if you touch them. The Famicom version made some very tiny sacrifices, but nothing significant. The fuel is just a number instead of an actual meter like in the arcade version. There's also no longer a timer at the top of the screen, not that we needed it because the fuel was basically the timer. The graphics are also slightly downgraded, as expected, but other than that, this is a near perfect port of the arcade original. Let's try Phoenix Chronicles. It's a platform with some unique ideas. You can build blocks that help you reach higher platforms. Some areas require you to build blocks because they're too high to reach normally. Be careful though, because you only have a limited number of blocks. You can increase your inventory of blocks by destroying enemies. You also have a projectile weapon that you can shoot in 3 different directions. You can use that same projectile weapon to break your own blocks should you need to. It's possible to trap yourself, which means you have to die on purpose. The controls could be better. It's not possible to shoot your projectile while ducking, which means you can't obtain certain items or shoot down lower blocks. You always have to descend the lower platforms to reach those shorter items. I do appreciate that you're able to shoot upwards, though. Overall, this is a fun and unique game. Let's try the Goonies. It's a platformer where you must find all the keys to advance to the next level. You also have to find and stay with the keys. The keys are randomized, which means they'll never be in the same spot, so each time you play, you'll definitely have to look around. To open the doors, you need a bomb, which you can obtain from the red mice. Your main attack is a kick, but you can also obtain projectile weapons later. Levels start with straightforward, but the little early Konami Famicom game. Like with Circuit Charlie and the seed assembly they console sometimes. The Goonies was released in it was released in the games in the PlayStation 4. It's unclear why it never received a content release as it was published in other ways. Some people like Feral Inferno had a rare opportunity to enjoy this game despite their release. You play as a cook who must defend your place against wolves. It's a shoot 'em up where you have to destroy all the wolves before they reach the bottom. You on the right side. The more wolves you miss, the more chances they have to attack you. In the stages where they move up, if you miss too many, the wolves will push a rock onto your character. Sometimes it's more clear that the story is challenging because dead center and your projectiles will bounce off them. They can also fire off projectiles against you, which results in an instant death. And remember, if you miss even just one wolf, it will start attacking you on the right side, which makes the game a lot tougher. Regardless, it's a decent early arcade title. Yes, version. Just like the original. Unfortunately, it was only released in Japan on the. Surprisingly, the Atari 2600 got this game too, and it is developed by Konami. Unsurprisingly, the original. Unfortunately, it was only released in Japan on the Famicom. Surprisingly, the Atari 2600 got this game too, and it was developed by Konami. Unfortunately, this one is far worse. Your controller, as well as the enemies, all move in a very choppy fashion, almost like they're playing on a fighter handheld console. The enemies seem to be even harder to hurt than the wolf that attacks you on the right side is able to move between platforms, which does not happen in the arcade or Famicom game. On the plus side, though, there will never be more than one wolf.
The intel must be delivered, whatever it takes.
Right on screen. Unfortunately, though, this is a very mediocre version of the game. I do think the console could have done better. Look at track and field. It's a sports game that has multiple team events. It features running events like the 100-meter dash and field events like long jump. To make it to the next round, you have to meet the qualification. If you fail to do so, it's an automatic game over, and you event. Graphics are excellent with nice parallax going in the background. There's also digitized voices, making it seem more realistic. In Japan, Konami released 2 separate games: Hyper Olympics and Hyper Sports. Hyper Olympics covers the 100-meter dash, long jump, 110-meter hurdle, and javelin throw. Hyper Sports has shooting gallery, triple jump, archery, and high jump. Both games were not compatible with a regular Famicom controller and instead required a Hypershock controller. The games also removed the digitized voices, but are otherwise excellent arcade ports. 2 years later, Track and Field came out in the US, but instead of releasing 2 different games, Konami combined Hyper Olympics and Hyper Sports into one game, so now you get 8 events instead of just 4. The game is also now compatible with a regular NES controller instead of requiring a special controller. This version is definitely the one I recommend. So a lot of the games we covered are great, but so far we haven't seen a game that's up to that Konami standard. In my opinion, Gradius was that first Famicom game to be exceptional. It's a horizontal shoot 'em up with unique gaming. At the bottom, we see a list of upgrades that you can collect for your ship. In order to obtain the upgrade you want, you have to keep collecting these items. The items will make the cursor scroll further to the right until you reach the weapon that you want. Your ship starts out very slow, and you only have a mediocre weapon, so collecting the upgrades will be very helpful. The game is extremely difficult. You die in one hit, and as you might expect, you lose all your upgrades. You can grab the shield upgrade though, which gives you a few extra hits. I'm very impressed with the sound and music and how close it is to the arcade version. The graphics are also a step up above most of the games we looked at before. The earlier games looked fine, but they tended to use very poor color choices like baby blue and pink. The only sacrifice they had to make was the vertical scrolling. The arcade version had levels that scrolled in NES could be the same, but it required the use of numbers. Menus was made by most of those levels, so unfortunately the levels only move horizontally. This would also be the first game that Konami published in the US. Perhaps they realized this game was too good to pass up for an international release. Surprisingly, though, they kept the previous name despite the arcade version being more nemesis in the US. I just wanted to give you an idea of where Konami started. While the earlier games were more primitive, Contra is a very well made game and is significantly better than their earlier titles. The game has a mapper that increases the amount of ROM space it has. Konami would eventually make Gradius 2, and unlike before, it has vertical scrolling. Thanks to more powerful mappers, Gradius 2 was much more like the arcade version. So why were Konami's earlier titles rougher around the edges? Like I mentioned before, there weren't as many mappers around yet, which meant you were stuck with a lower ROM space. With less ROM space, that means you have less wiggle room to add more content or improve the gameplay. The other reason is inexperience. With anything in life, you improve as time goes on. Your favorite early Konami game? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching. Konami, Capcom, or Tecmo, but there's one company that doesn't get as much attention. Data East is known for arcade games like Burger Time, Dudes, and Bump and Jump. We know their arcade games are great, but what about their NES titles? Could there be a reason they're often ignored? Let's take a look. Coming at you with another video. Alright, we got a we're not going to waste any time. Let's talk about Data East. Let the sorcery consume you. Founded in 1976, Data East started off with blackjack, where you had a chance to win coins. Not much of an arcade, but a decent start. Super Break was their first real arcade game, which came to the tabletop form. Their first successful title was Astro Fighter in 1980, which was a top-down shooter that was similar to Space Invaders. Around this time, Data East came up with a very unique idea for the arcade market. Normal arcade games only had one game built in. Imagine having a bulky machine in your home and it only plays one game. Data East's new arcade machine, the Deco cassette system, could play multiple games. Instead of having to buy a whole new arcade machine, you could just switch out the cassette and play something else. Some of their most popular games, like Lock and Chase, Burger Time, and Bump and Jump, would make an appearance on this unit. Unfortunately, some of the games were poor quality, and many people were worried about the cassettes wearing down over time. But the Deco cassette system would inspire other units like the Nintendo Versus system, which was a similar concept. Data East would begin to have some major success in 1984. They developed and published the arcade game Karate Champ, and they published Kung Fu Master and Commando. All three of these became the highest grossing arcade games in 1985. Karate Kid became the first successful fighting game and would set a standard for future fighting games. Data East continued this positive momentum with more arcade hits like Bad Dudes, Heavy Barrel, and Karnov. With success in the arcade, Data East took notice of the rising popularity of home consoles. The Famicom was the best so Data East decided to do the same. The first game was B-Wing, also known as Battle Wing. It's a very unique shoot 'em up. At the beginning, you can select what they list of weapons. It's going to be personal preference for you, but some are more heavy for certain stages. If you hit one, lose your weapon, and if you get hit again, you die. It's always recommended to pick up a weapon as soon as possible if you don't already have one, even if it's a bad weapon. There's barriers that are scattered across the stages that you can break through with a weapon. It's important that you give yourself enough room so that you don't get trapped by enemies. Inside a barrier that you can't even find the use from, which are better than the weapons. There's a lot I respect about this game. For 1986 standards, it's perfect at the spring.
Pick up your gear and ammunition. Time to move out.
So many different options for weapons. The controls are weird. You have the ability to dip into the background, which lets you pass under enemies and barriers, but you can only do this when you don't have a weapon. That's kind of weird. The bosses are nothing more than reused level tiles, which is lazy. There's a bonus for some. I assume Glip. I want to stop a weapon. Sometimes you'll buy a regular weapon when you get to a certain stage. The game is also very repetitive, with very little variation between stages. Nonetheless, I do think the good outweighs the bad. For 1986 standards, you get a lot of cool and unique features. This is a good start for the East. The company would port over some of their arcade games, and most of the players are not. Control the chef, you must drop the burger toppings to the bottom of the screen. If you walk completely over one of the toppings, it will fall down to the next row. Enemies this way. If you get surrounded, you can temporarily stun the enemies, but you can only do this a few times. The game is a near perfect port of the arcade version with only a slight downgrade in graphics.
Wow.
You can't get much better than this. Here's Tag Team Wrestling. We all know this is where the character Strongman came from. It's an early wrestling game. Strongman came from. It's an early wrestling game. You can play between two different characters that you can switch out at any time. Various wrestling moves which will deplete your opponent's life. If you get their life bar low enough, you can pin them and therefore win. You can tell it's an early wrestling game. There's only two teams, but they're always playing against the strong ads. Even when you make it further in the game, there's only minor differences in the graphics. You're really not getting much content here. The animations are extremely poor, with only
Here stands the third son of DJ, Commander-in-Chief of Taekwondo. Name is Liga.
Great choice, let's get.
but your body never learns to carry it. Military workouts train your whole body. Better hit harder to feel stronger. 46, that's the only strength that actually matters. You don't need any equipment to start. Zero. Just your body weight, 15 minutes a day. Day 7. People around you will notice before you do. But when it comes down, tap the screen, take the quiz, start tomorrow.
comment. Right.
No witnesses. Success.
At about those days later. Relatively spoken. I still the kiss lunch.
Então, que entrada foi essa? Ai, ai, eu cremeia é arqueóloga. Se não fosse ele salvar a gente, o reator tava explodido.
Are you good to know?
One how to focus and actually get stuff done. It's like an Ola, the AI notepad that transforms one button, works in background, take enough notes, and Granola will make them awesome. Even after Granola's attention, like, my actual you now. Incredible! Alrighty, these pets aren't going to hatch themselves. Let's go! I can't wait to see what awesome pet is inside this egg. Let's go. No teacher? Click here to answer and hatch your own pet on Adapted Mind. Come on, you got this!
Oh, so funny. I could do a bit of cosine after this. Enjoy cruising. On the phone.
Well, they can learn all about voices. Yes.
I'll take. Agreed. You're good, baby. Huh? Rank 3.
With my sword and my heart, shall shield you from harm.
Go, Tori. The children, like an indoor amusement park. Wow, is there a place like that? Sounds exciting. I wonder what it looks like. Why don't we go together? Choopy, 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 choo, to the children's fun zone.
Okay. I just go to say I took to a kiss. No.
At first, it's a huge success. Customers love it. But there's just one problem. Whoever eats it turns into a mutant Krabby Patty. Mr. Krabs is the first to transform, followed by Sam, and soon the entire restaurant is overrun. Maybe I'll pass on this patty. SpongeBob is the only one left, hiding in a dumpster. trying not to breathe. But then a news reporter warns him that Plankton is still dormant. SpongeBob rushes to the chum bucket, sealing the doors, but Plankton thinks he's just here to steal his chum paste. That is until the creatures break in and infect him too. Now completely cornered, SpongeBob climbs to the top of a chum tower, but then some chum falls into Patrick's mouth and he suddenly turns back to normal. SpongeBob realizes chum is the cure, so he starts launching chum at the monsters, curing them one by one until the nightmare is over. And for the next 3 minutes, all vintage Krabby Patties and the Krusty Krab are doing the race! Mr. Krabs hires Sandy to create the ultimate Krabby Patty, and at first, it's a huge success. After SpongeBob finished scrubbing the grill, he actually stuck the sponge back onto his tongue. But as he grabbed the patty, that's when he noticed the sink had overflowed. He set down a warning sign and began wondering having no clue which dummy had even put the warning sign there. SpongeBob discovered the sink was clogged by a giant plug. He and Patrick were about to pull it out, but Mr. Krabs stopped them. Startled, SpongeBob shot straight into the air. Mr. Krabs shut off the lights and told them a story. Two kids wandering the ocean once found a huge plug. Curiosity pushed them to pull it free and they were sucked inside. But it didn't stop there. The suction was so strong it swallowed all of Bikini Bottom, bringing disaster to the sea. SpongeBob asked where this giant plug was. Suddenly nervous, Mr. Krabs rushed them out of the restaurant. Their curiosity too strong, SpongeBob and Patrick set out on a quest. SpongeBob blew a bubble big enough to lift Patrick's house into the sky, but the bubble popped instantly, and they crash landed right on Squidward. Patrick then had an idea. He would drag SpongeBob along to find the plug. On the way, Patrick stumbled into something. Looking up, they realized they had found the plug. Driven by curiosity, Patrick reached to pull it, but Mr. Krabs appeared just in time to stop him. He admitted there was more to the story. The two kids in that tale were none other than a young Mr. Krabs and Plankton. Neither of them wanted Patrick to repeat their mistake. Patrick sighed in relief that he hadn't done it, only to somehow yank the plug out anyway. In an instant, the group was sucked in, and Bikini Bottom itself was dragged into the vortex, the entire city swallowed whole. Patrick jumped away from the dock. SpongeBob finished scrubbing the grill. He actually stuck the sponge back onto his tongue. But as he grabbed a patty, he slipped, sliding all the way from the kitchen out into the dining area. That's when he noticed the sink had overflowed. He set down a warning sign and began wondering how to clean it up. Just then, Patrick slipped too, having no clue which dummy had even put the warning sign there. SpongeBob watched it. After SpongeBob finished scrubbing the grill, he actually stuck the sponge back onto his tongue. But as he grabbed a patty, he slipped, sliding all the way from the kitchen out into the dining area. That's when he noticed the sink had overflowed.
Round two. Oops.
Straight into the air. Mr. Krabs shut off the lights and told them a story. Two kids wandering the ocean once found a huge plug. Curiosity pushed them to pull it free and they were sucked inside. But it didn't stop there. The suction was so strong it swallowed all of Bikini Bottom, bringing disaster to the sea. SpongeBob asked where this giant plug was. Suddenly nervous, Mr. Krabs rushed them out of the restaurant. Their curiosity too strong, SpongeBob and Patrick set out on a quest. SpongeBob blew a bubble big enough to lift Patrick's house into the sky, but the bubble popped instantly, and they crash landed right on Squidward. Patrick then had an idea. He would drag SpongeBob along to find the plug. On the way, Patrick stumbled into something. Looking up, they realized they had found the plug. Driven by curiosity, Patrick reached to pull it, but Mr. Krabs appeared just in time to stop him. He admitted there was more to the story. The two kids in that tale were none other than a young Mr. Krabs and Plankton. Neither of them wanted Patrick to repeat their mistake. Patrick sighed in relief that he hadn't done it, only to somehow yank the plug out anyway. In an instant, the group was sucked in, and Bikini Bottom itself was dragged into the vortex. The entire city swallowed whole. Watch this. I don't see anything that with that. It's so exciting.
SS.
Sent over the snail that his friend had found. Seeing this, the residents followed suit one after another. SpongeBob, who didn't know how to refuse, could only accept them. He even spent all his salary on buying food for the snails. However, more snails were sent by the residents. The large number of snails.
Snails.
Squidward was even more unlucky. A large amount of mucus directly caused him to have an allergic reaction. After learning that it was caused by SpongeBob taking in the snails, he immediately called the Animal Control Bureau. Patrick is even more of a strange one. In order to get free food, he directly disguised himself as a snail and sneaked in. But when he saw the room full of snails, Patrick turned around and wanted to run away. Just then the people from the Animal Control Bureau arrived. SpongeBob hurriedly took the snails and hid. He also surrounded the place with an iron net. But facing the continuous police force support, SpongeBob had to cooperate. In the end, all the snails were taken away. Patrick also mixed in among them and was caught. SpongeBob finally adopted a group of snails. Under his careful care, the snails gradually grew up healthily. However, this warm scene was broken because of Patrick's appearance. He sent over the snail that his friend had found. Seeing this, the residents followed suit. Squidward invites SpongeBob to join him on strike. First, he takes off his hat. He threw his hat on the ground. What if every game? What happens when SpongeBob and Patrick become criminals? SpongeBob and Patrick are watching a crime movie with Mr. Krabs when he teaches them a lesson. You can borrow anything you want anytime, as long as you get it back. Later, SpongeBob and Patrick spot a balloon stand, but since they don't have any money, they borrow a balloon, following Mr. Krabs' advice. Just as they sneak off, the balloon pops. SpongeBob and Patrick freak out, thinking they run away. Survive in the wild, but when Patrick eats his candy bar, he accuses SpongeBob of stealing his. They both decide to turn each other in. They race to the police station, determined to report each other as thieves. But what happens next? What happens when SpongeBob and Patrick become criminals? SpongeBob and Patrick are watching a crime movie with Mr. Krabs when he teaches them a lesson. You can borrow anything you want. Since they don't have any money, they borrow a balloon, following Mr. Krabs. SpongeBob and Patrick freak out, thinking they're now thieves. They run away, leaving Bikini Bottom behind. But things get worse. They can't survive in the wild. But when Andy accuses SpongeBob of stealing his, they both decide to turn each other in. Report each other. What happens next? When SpongeBob and Patrick become criminals. SpongeBob and Patrick are watching a crime movie with Mr. Krabs when he teaches them a lesson. You can borrow anything you want anytime, as long as you get it back before. SpongeBob and Patrick spot a balloon stand, but since they don't have any money, they
If
borrow.
you're pressing the wrong button.
The balloon pops. SpongeBob and Patrick freak out, thinking they're now thieves. They run away, leaving Bikini Bottom behind. But things get worse. They try to survive in the wild, but when Patrick eats his candy bar, he accuses SpongeBob of stealing.